Hey everyone, welcome. I'm Naomi, and today I have something a little bit different for you. Now, I frequently say that I have something different for you, and that's because as a yoga and movement teacher, what I tend to offer in the way of yoga and movement classes is really different from what you will find in a more traditional or conventional yoga class. My flows are kind of out of the box and unusual and unique. And I love that. That's my jam. But today I'm not offering a yoga class. Today I'm not offering a flow or even creative movement. Today I'm offering a strength-based practice. Now, part of the reason that I'm offering a strength-based practice is that strength-based movement, so lifting weights, is a huge part of my own movement practice personally, as well as what I teach. And I want to share it here too. Now, what I'm going to share today is how to do a wide squat using weights. So if you are familiar with yoga, you probably know this as the goddess squat where your legs are wide. Maybe you even do this with your arms, right? So we're very familiar with that, but from a strength-based perspective, there are many different ways that we can approach this particular exercise and use it to create really good movement for our bodies, really good health for your pelvic floor, for your hips, for your legs, and for your low back. Now, what I'm going to do first is share the different ways that you can modify a squat, a wide squat, so that you could try it on your own if you want. Now, in the middle, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what we do after that, and then I'm going to share a strength-based practice featuring two different exercises, the wide squat as well as bent over rows, so that you can see what a wide squat would look like within a strength superset. Okay, so one that focuses on different areas of your body. Now, if the idea of getting stronger sounds good to you, because honestly, yoga is fantastic, but it doesn't cover everything that your body needs, then join me on the mat. At the very least, check out the ways that you can approach a wide squat from a strength-based perspective. And if you have a little bit more time, join me afterwards for a strength-based practice that will help you feel even stronger in your legs and in your upper body. Okay? So let's do this, and I will see you on the other side. We're going to start, as I grab my weights, with the wide squat. And I want to just start out by saying, like, your normal squat, your feet are hip width, maybe slightly wider. For your wider squat, you can heel toe out a few times, but this is about as wide as I'm going to go. Okay, so I started hip width. I went not heel toe, I went toe heel, and then toe, and that's really wide enough. Okay, so it's not super wide. Then I'm going to give you two options for how to hold your weights. So first option, weights go up above your shoulders, and this will limit how much you can hold, obviously. Okay, but you're going to squat down, trying to get your hips to knee height, and push up. Okay, you might be able to hold something heavier in a normal squat. With a wider squat, it might be a little lighter. Squat down and push up. Okay, I'm going to do this from the side, squat down, so you can see where my hips go, and push up. Okay, now option two is to hold the weights in front of you in between your legs. It's a little awkward, right? Because they're going to bump up against your thighs slightly, but it's the same idea. Squat down, maybe even get the weights to the floor, push from your feet to come back up. So that push as I squat down, push from my feet to come back up is super important, okay? I'm going to set those down for just a second, bring my chair over. So those are your two arm options for how you're holding the weights, but I also just want to give you, like, if the wide squat feels like too much, now you can do this with weights and without, but you can get a chair, take your feet wider than the chair, sit, and push up. Sit and push up. So just know that you can do a wide squat as a sit to stand, sit and push up with weight that can just help prep you for this particular exercise. And I do want to give you that option because it might feel really intimidating to do this instead, where you're squatting down and you're like, whoa, that's really hard. And starting with a chair might give you just a little bit more support in learning the skill. And if after you do a couple of times with the chair, right, maybe a couple of practices, or you do it once and you say, that felt good, I'm ready to move on to that wide squat without the chair, you can do that, okay? So that's your wide squat, okay, with weights. Lots of options. Okay, next, thank you so much for joining me for that exploration of a few different ways that you can approach a wide squat from a strength-based perspective using hand weights. Now, there is one method that I didn't include, which is holding one single weight in front of your chest, which is another option for how to approach that pose using weights. So if you don't have two weights, or if you prefer to just hold one, that is another phenomenal way, and I highly encourage you to try out all three of those ways to see which feels best for you. Now, we are about to head into a strength superset, and this strength superset includes the wide squats that you just did, as well as bent over rows. The bent over rows can be done using a chair, right? So you can put one hand on the chair and row the weight up toward your ribs, elbow toward the sky, or you can do bent over rows without a chair and have the weights in both of your hands, row up towards your ribs and release. Now, if you're really unfamiliar with the bent over rows and you don't want to approach them today, that's okay. You could also try them with lighter weights or with yoga blocks, if that seems like a better way to look at them. I did offer this within the whole class that I taught, but I really just wanted to focus on the wide squats today rather, because that is the pose of the month in my online studio, but I'll get to that when we're all done. So like I said, if you're really unfamiliar and it makes you nervous, then you can avoid the bent over rows completely, or you can make it a little bit lighter just to get a general sense of it with blocks or lighter hand weights, okay? So all that said, let's get right into the superset, and I will see you at the end. So this is a 3-minute set. You're gonna grab your weights. You can choose to do them with the weights above your shoulders. You can choose to do them with the weights down, but you are aiming for between 6 and 10. Okay, if you want the chair to give you more support, please grab the chair. Your legs don't have to be super wide. If they feel wide like mine just did, just inch them a little bit closer in. Okay, you are pushing from your feet back up like a rocket. Like that rocket sound, that's a rocket sound. Okay? Push, right? That helps me. Okay? Now, when I say this is a 3-minute set, it just means that 2 minutes, ideally, you are working through the 2 different exercises, and then you get a minute rest. Okay? You might want to rest in between exercises, that's also fine. But once you have finished your squat, okay, you can step your feet inside your weights. Make sure that your feet are hip width apart, your knees are bent, hips are back. And you can start your rows. Now, if you are doing single arm rows, it's going to take a little bit longer. You might have to pause the video and give yourself more of a 4-minute set instead of 3. If you are doing both arms in your bent over row, a 3-minute set will probably be enough. Do make sure to keep your chest going forward, hips going back. And when you've done as many, that's for real, when you've done as many reps it feels good to do, likely between 6 and 10, you get to rest. Now, why is it between 6 and 10? Well, 6, if you're doing 6, that indicates actually that you're working with kind of a heavier load, that you are pretty close to your capacity, right? That you could maybe do 1 more, you could maybe do 2 more, but really 6 is where you feel strong. And that because of that, you have about 30 seconds left before next set begins. Because of that, you are stopping at 6 just to preserve that strength, right? But it feels challenging. 10, it's more moderate. And you might even be getting closer, inching closer to, maybe I could do something heavier. Or maybe. Okay, you've got 10 seconds before the second set begins. So you can grab your weights. Remember your options for your wide squats. I'll do the second one with the weights in between my legs just so you can see that difference, right? That you are squatting down and pulling up, squatting down and pulling up. You don't have to touch the weights to the ground. You can let them hang. That's fine. Push through your whole foot to come back up. Yeah, the piston sound, that rocket sound, still there. And I would say, both for me are equally challenging. There's a little bit more of an upper body component when you have the weights above your shoulders. Also haven't been counting this time. So I'm going to say that's probably good. All right, I'm going to give myself a little bit of a rest before I move on to the rows. Again, you might not need the rest. I do. But a rest is good. And then you're moving on to your rows, either single arm or both arms, okay? If you're doing both arms, you can place the weights in between your feet or out on the outside of your feet and wiggle your feet a bit wider, okay? But you lift the weights up, elbows toward the ceiling and release, okay? You might already be almost done. Try to get your hands towards your ribs, elbows pointing up. I'll turn forward. So you can see my elbows are pointing out slightly, but I'm not turning my palms forward. My palms face in as my elbows go up. It's just a different action. And honestly, I don't know how many that was. That feels like enough for me. But it also gives me a minute rest, and that's what feels super important for me right now. So I'm going to shake. And what I will say too is that, if you feel like 2 sets is enough for you, this is a good point to just stop and skip forward to the flow, which is fine with me. If you have limited time, stop here, fast forward to the flow. Also totally okay. If you have a little bit more time, let's keep going. We have about 30 seconds left before our third set, okay? Now for the third set, you might say, you know what, I really need to go to sit to stand, so I need to change my arm position in the squats. I need to change the heaviness of my weights. Maybe I want to move down. Maybe I want to decrease my reps. I would decrease reps instead of going down in weight personally. So if you're at 5 or if you're at 6 reps, maybe you do 5. Okay, you got about 8 seconds before we start, so you can grab your weights. I'm going to decrease mine. Okay, so maybe it's weights above your shoulder. Maybe it's weights down. Remember, you're trying to squat down, hips to knee height, and push back up. Squat down, push from your legs back up. I can't help it. I just have to make that sound. All right. It's also just a forceful exhale. That's what's happening. All right. But stay steady through your heels as you push back up. Okay. So again, you are aiming for between 6 and 10 here. Okay, I've just done 6. I'm probably going to hit 8 and call it good. Just knowing how my body feels, what's been going on for me in the past couple of days, and just saying, you know what, 8 is good. I don't need to do 10 this time. For you, it again might be I did 6 the first 2 times and 5 is good third time through. That's also fine. When you're ready, we're moving to our last set of rows. So again, those could be single arm rows. Those could be both hands, both arms. You want the weights on the outsides of your feet. Okay, hips back, chest forward, pull them up, arm bones integrate, row and release. Try to keep your torso parallel to the floor so you're not inching up on the diagonal. And when you're done, you're done. I'm going to move everything out of the way. You might still be going, and that's fine. You could also still take your minute and rest Okay? Thank you so much for joining me today. So we covered a lot of ground. Not only did you do a tutorial about how to approach a wide squat using weights, but you also incorporated wide squats into a two-pose superset, which is a really big deal. So congratulations to you, whether this is your first time doing this or whether you've done this a bunch of times before. I am just so grateful that you decided to join me today and to dive a little bit deeper into the idea of getting stronger. Because as amazing as yoga is, it is just not enough when it comes to building strength in our bodies. And I am really passionate about getting stronger as I get older. And if you are too, I would love for you to join me in my online studio, Move with Naomi. So every week in Move with Naomi, I offer a live practice that incorporates, you guessed it, weights. So we do a quick warm up, about 5 minutes of warm up. Then I give a little bit of a tutorial, something like what we did today, only I do both poses. So I give a tutorial of both poses that we're doing in our strength-based superset. And then I put it all together and create a mini flow at the end. So 2, 3, maybe 4 poses that combine everything that we did, the warm up, the strength, and a little bit of flow. Okay, so that we get to see a full picture of what movement can look like. And that excites me, right? Because the idea of strength training says to me, this is something that lasts. This is something enduring. This is going to help me age in a way that will support my bones, that will support my body, that will help me move with more power and skill and confidence as I get older. Okay, it will also help me with my mobility. It will also help me with my balance. It'll also help me with my pelvic floor. These are things that are going to impact my body overall as I age, and I want that. So if you want that too, and you want to focus a little bit more on wide squats this month or any month, you can join me in Move with Naomi. You can check out the link in the description below, which will give you 50% off your first 2 months, which basically gives you a month for free, which is really awesome. And not only do you get that weekly strength-based class that I was just talking about, but I also offer 15-minute classes, 8-minute classes, 5-minute classes, and strength-based classes all month long to support your yoga practice, to support a mobility practice, to support just a living your life practice. So I really hope to see you there and move. But if nothing else, I am really glad that you're here with me and that you tried this out today. Thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you back in the mat again really soon. Until then, bye everyone.